All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. You look at the media headlines right now, and they are constantly flipping from crisis to calm and back again. But here's the reality. A massive economic chain reaction has already been triggered in the Middle East. And even if the situation appears to be calming down on the surface, the real financial consequences haven't actually hit the average person's bank account yet.
I absolutely love this analogy from our source material because it perfectly captures our current reality. Think of it exactly like food poisoning. The moment you stop eating a dodgy prawn, well, it doesn't mean you suddenly feel fine, right? The poison is already in your system, and it takes time to work its way through before you feel the absolute worst of it. That is exactly what is happening to our global economy. The economic poison is already in the system, and it's going to hit our energy, food, and transport costs incredibly hard over the next 6 to 12 months.
Section 1. Geopolitics and oil prices. Let's break down the facts of how this all started.
Things escalated so fast. Starting in late February, Operation Epic Fury launched as a highly coordinated set of nearly 900 strikes in just 12 hours. It's pretty wild. Just days later, on March 2nd, the Strait of Hormuz was closed, which sent oil prices to a massive peak by the end of March. Now, jump to today. A ceasefire has been announced, markets rallied, and everyone sort of breathed a sigh of relief. But the waters remain incredibly murky, quite literally actually, with ongoing threats of sea mines keeping global shipping lanes heavily compromised. So regardless of the political posturing, this rapid escalation has already caused irreversible economic friction.
The fragility of our global supply chain is just staggering when you really think about it. 20% of the entire world's oil has to travel through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. There's no alternative route. Closing this single choke point is basically like parking a massive lorry sideways across a one-lane motorway. It sends an immediate, inescapable shockwave through global markets.
And here is the unquestionable financial severity of that roadblock. Oil went from around $61 a barrel at the start of the year, just rocketing up to over $118. That means the price of oil nearly doubled in just 3 months. To put that into perspective, this marked the biggest sudden price rise we've seen in nearly 40 years.
Moving on to Section 2, rising costs and job risks. Let's see how this trickles down to you.
Think of your employer like a sandwich getting completely squeezed from both sides. On one side, the cost of just doing business skyrockets because of major transport, manufacturing, and electricity spikes. On the other side, consumers, like you and me, are spending way less because our own personal bills are just too high. When businesses are squeezed from both directions simultaneously, they have to make fast, brutal decisions. It starts small, cutting overtime, freezing new hires, but eventually it leads directly to layoffs.
So here's the crucial point. We are not entering this energy shock from a position of strength. Job growth was actually already quietly slowing down before the oil shock even hit. Companies have been pulling back for months. The last time the hiring rate was sustained at a level this dangerously low was during the massive financial crisis back in 2008 and 2009. Layering a massive energy shock on top of an already struggling market, that is exactly what accelerates this chain reaction.
Section 3. The broken safety net. Normally, the government would step in here, but their playbook is broken.
Will the government step in and save us this time? It's a totally natural question to ask. During 2008, and obviously during the recent pandemic, the government absolutely stepped in. They cut interest rates, they printed money, they sent out stimulus checks. It wasn't pretty, but it worked as a safety net. Well, I have to dismantle that assumption for you today. Right now, U.S. inflation has just jumped to 3.3%. If central banks cut rates or print more money to save jobs, it pumps more cash into the economy, which will only push that inflation rate even higher. They are completely trapped.
To show you exactly why just printing more money isn't a viable option anymore, just look at this massive debt burden. The U.S. is currently sitting on $39 trillion in national debt. $39 trillion! It acts exactly like a consumer who has maxed out literally every single credit card they own and is barely scraping by on the minimum payments. You would never tell that person to just go out and borrow more money, would you?
Get this. The monthly interest alone on that debt is a staggering $88 billion. That's roughly $1 trillion a year just to service the interest. But the most shocking part? 19 cents of every single tax dollar collected now goes purely to paying interest. Not to hospitals, not to schools, not to fixing roads, just interest. The government simply lacks the financial bandwidth to act as the massive safety net we've grown so accustomed to.
All right, on to Section 4, the threat of stagflation.
This is where things get really concerning. Economists actually have a specific, honestly terrifying name for this scenario: stagflation. It's an economic condition where the economy slows down and shrinks, so your income and job are definitely under threat, but at the exact same time, the cost of living and prices just keep continually rising. The last time the world dealt with proper stagflation was the 1970s, and it notoriously caused an entire lost decade of weak growth and shrinking standards of living.
The contrast here brilliantly illustrates the difference. In a normal recession, people lose jobs and spending drops. But as a result, prices actually come down. Stagflation, though, it's the evil twin. The economy shrinks, but prices keep rising anyway. It's a quicksand trap. Because the tools used to fix inflation make the recession worse, and the tools used to fix the recession make inflation worse. And with Goldman Sachs just cutting their GDP growth forecast down to 2.1%, we are staring textbook stagflation right in the face.
If you want the hard data, look at Moody's. They built an AI model tested against 80 years of economic data. Every single time it crosses the 50% mark, a recession follows within 12 months, without fail. Right now, it sits at 49%. But the truly terrifying part is that this 49% probability was calculated before the Iran war even started. This is a massive, flashing warning signal that relying solely on cash is dangerous right now. Diversifying your savings into real, tangible assets has literally never been more critical.
Section 5. The dollar under pressure. Let's see how this builds into a much larger global crisis.
Because of this intense squeeze, the U.S. is practically trapped between three totally impossible options. Option 1, keep raising interest rates to fight inflation, but risk crashing the stock market and forcing a deep recession. Option 2, print more money to save the economy, but risk unleashing double-digit inflation that completely destroys working-class savings. Option 3, declare the ceasefire a win and step back, but look incredibly weak globally by failing to secure a critical shipping lane. Impartially speaking, all three of these paths weaken the dollar, making the rest of the world wonder if they still need to rely on it.
You know, the smartest money in the world is already moving. Central banks are literally pulling their money out of U.S. treasuries. It's hitting the lowest level since 2012, dropping from 33% back in 2015 down to 21% today. And where are they flocking instead? Gold. Gold reserves have jumped from just 9% to 24%. It's a complete, undeniable reversal of the trend.
Finally, Section 6. How to protect yourself. What are the exact steps you can take today?
Look, we have to acknowledge that an economic shock like this does not land the same way for everyone. For higher earners, sure, inflation is annoying. But for lower-income households, it is entirely life-changing. They are forced to spend a massive 33% of their budget just to eat, compared to 13% for middle-income households. When oil and food prices double, it's the difference between being a bit annoyed at the petrol pump and genuinely wondering how you are going to feed your family.
And hey, if you think government price caps are going to save the day, the data tells a very different story. During the recent energy crisis, government subsidies basically acted like a completely leaky bucket. I mean, 95 mega corporations made $36 billion in unexpected profits, and 84% of that flowed straight to their shareholders. The money meant to protect ordinary people ends up flowing directly to the top 1%. It's exactly like the 2008 recovery, where the top 1% captured 95% of all income gains. Honestly, nobody is coming to save you. So that means you have to take action yourself. Our source lays out 3 incredibly specific, actionable steps. Step 1. Pause major financial commitments right now to build some cash breathing room. Just give yourself a buffer. Step 2. Become harder to replace at your current job by stepping up and picking up extra responsibility. Step 3. Start an online side hustle. The source actually notes that with focused work on a digital skill, you can become highly competitive, creating a real pathway to significant supplemental income.
So the final question I want to leave you with today is simply this. Are you ready to take responsibility for your own financial survival before the shock fully hits? Look, the poison is already in the system. The safety net is full of holes. And the smartest money in the world is already making moves. It's time to upskill, diversify, and protect yourself. I really hope this explainer gave you the clarity you need to navigate the coming months.